a tenant, they're like, I'm responsible.
Yeah.
And I got friends that are lawyers and really smart kids, and they'll text me, they're like, haha, like almost burned my house down.
Yeah.
You're listening to the DORE Podcast, where we spotlight the people, ideas, and businesses keeping Ottawa running. From contractors to real estate investors, entrepreneurs to industry experts, we dive into real conversations and help grow everybody's pie.
Episode 20, Apollo Insurance.
Good day. So Jeff McCann from Apollo Insurance. This is going to be a fun chat.
Yeah, great to see you. Appreciate you having me.
So thank you for dropping by the office. I know you're on a road trip, so you
it's
with
great
flights
to
and trying to make you to set that up and come in. So I think we succeeded.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I appreciate the flexibility, and it's just great to get into all these different communities. And it's way different, like being over email to getting in person and getting a chance to see properties, to meet people face to face. I think it's just so valuable. So I appreciate you taking the time.
No, because I think we were just saying before the chat from DORE Property Management, I think we've been working with you for about 4 years, but we'd never met in person.
I know. And it's so, especially those 4 years, those early ones. And now it's like, well, I'm trying to just get it back out there on the road and make up for lost time.
No, so this is good. No, great stuff. So thank you. So we're having a little fun chat here. So so tell me, like, how did you get involved in insurance?
You know, I never really thought about it when I was, say, in university.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting kind of area because it's such a big industry, but it doesn't really have that brand or cachet. And when I was in business school, everything was like, go be an accountant or a consultant, maybe go into banking. Like that was all the narrative that was around the courses or the types of people that were coming to campus to visit. So I came out of school as an accountant and I went to Price Waterhouse, and it's like, sounded like, okay, like you got a good corporate job. Yeah. Certainly never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. And then this, I was looking at, I'm like, my personality is just not suited for accounting. And it's funny because now people are like, obviously, but it's like, no, like, and of course, makes your family proud, and you've got this good brand, and Price Waterhouse is a great company.
Yes.
Fantastic trading, place to grow and learn.
Yeah. And
then somebody was like, hey, you should meet this other gentleman. He's got a job opening. Because I was looking at, well, what do I do next? Maybe should I go to law school, or, what should I pursue as accounting was going? And I'm like, insurance? Like, you mean like, and of course, immediately people think car insurance at the mall. Right. Like, like that's where people's mind goes, or maybe they think kind of life insurance. And so I meet this gentleman, he goes, hey, we do large corporate insurance, and we've got a portfolio of ski resorts. Ski resorts.
Interesting.
And I had grown up skiing, and I worked at a resort in British Columbia for a while, like when I was through high school. And he's like, and ski resorts, you think like liability, you have all this property in the middle of the wilderness, right? And then they have fires, and you've got the gondolas and the equipment and all this. And I'm like, I could never have believed or thought about, like this is what an industry. Yeah. And the numbers are huge. And, they're teaching me how global insurance to manage all these different risks, because it's really, ski resorts especially is a pretty specialized and challenging thing.
I suspect so.
So like, that's how I cut my teeth on insurance. And I never would have imagined. And of course I go home and say, hey, I'm going to quit accounting and then go into insurance. And people are like, are you,
your family
are you serious? Yeah, that's right. Are you like, but it actually is this great industry. And so that was how I got into insurance. Was I ran this ski resort insurance program out of Western Canada, and I would drive around visiting the resorts, and we would work on their risk management.
That is so interesting.
And their insurance placements.
Good for you. And I mean, how long has Apollo Insurance existed?
So Apollo has been around now. We launched April 1st of 2019.
2019
was sort of the original kind of go to market. It took us some time to get licensing, to build the technology, to get, insurance company partners behind us. And the way that I transitioned was, when I went into that business doing ski resorts, they did a whole bunch of other things as well, mining companies and, other types of insurance for these large kind of complex corporate. Yeah. But I tell you, going from Price Waterhouse that was digital first, hoteling, everybody was issued a laptop, remote work. Going into insurance was like going back in time.
Oh, okay.
Everything was paperwork. You couldn't even log in remotely. You had to be at the office, at your desk. Yeah. And of course at the time this is like Blackberries and this is I don't want to date myself, but
I was raised on pagers.
So like, and I'm kind of watching, and at the time, I'm watching Airbnb come to market, and here I'm sitting there going, and it felt like I was back in the 60s or something, because we're printing every single email
Sure.
and putting them in paper files on a wall, picture walls and walls of paper files. People are taking, pictures and then printing them out at like the London Doors and they'll then tape them into the file and put them on the shelf. Yeah. And so although there was all this,
sound so foreign to me because we've done stuff like that, just so you know.
Well, that's it. I think there's a lot of industries that are,
that's the way we work.
It's the way you trade. And I still, I bought something the other day and they had the 3-layer, the carbon paper, the 3-layer card. It's like, you had the pink and the white and and it's like, that's how a lot of industries. And so coming into insurance, and interestingly, as we chat more into property management and that, this industry is going through a similar life cycle. So I was kind of watching Airbnb, I was watching banking go from like tellers to bank machines to mobile app, online banking. So I was watching these kind of innovation life cycles happen in other spaces. And I'm kind of sitting there in the insurance industry, like, this is a great business. Yep. It's important. There's a lot of value in insurance. But
everybody needs it.
Everyone needs it.
If you own something, you need it. Yeah.
But holy smokes, are we old-fashioned?
Yeah. Okay.
And so that was the genesis of founding Apollo. Was I was actually at this brokerage firm, and I'm trying to convince them we should use the internet more. Yeah. And they're like, nah, like this is the way we've always done it. It works well. And credit to them. They're very smart people. They're very good at insurance. They know risk management. They're building great businesses. They don't really need, or there isn't that pressure from a technology perspective. So I said, all right, I'm going to quit my job, talk about things. So now I've gone from accounting left there, and people thought I was crazy. Yeah. And then I got this great insurance job, and people are like, you're going to quit? Yeah. So I never thought I was going to end up being an entrepreneur, but I ended up quitting that and then founding Apollo. And we founded it in the living room of my house. Yeah. Myself and my co-founder, and we're like at the kitchen table. Yeah. Like, all right, like insurance on the internet. Yeah. And which today sounds like duh. Yeah. But at the time, people were like, well, where's the underwriter? Right. Someone's not going to check every policy, and so it was very much at the beginning, and we had to educate the market. And there was a whole kind of cohort of, online insurance companies that around the same time that were coming out and saying, hey, listen, people don't want to come in during business hours. They want to do it on their phone. Absolutely. We're doing everything on our phone.
And remove the friction off the table.
Take the friction. So the original innovation was take paper-based processes and like going in and buying old-fashioned to putting it online. Okay. So we did
existing business.
So we were able to come to market and say, all right, as an example, tenants insurance. It should be easy. Tenants, they want to do it in the middle of the night. We also had we have a big collection of, say, yoga instructors, personal trainers, individual entrepreneurs, small businesses. Yeah. Same thing. When do they want to do their insurance? Right. 11 o'clock at night. Yeah. Sitting at their laptop or maybe on their phone. No, someone that says I have to have it. Great. Take my $20 a month and exactly. So we kind of started that way. Yeah. And then now Apollo has grown into being, the leading provider of tenants insurance to the multifamily industry. Yeah. Going from, paper-based to online. Yeah. And then, like we were chatting before, integrating now into all the property management systems. Right. So that it's just easy. Right. And then it sounds obvious, but man, just make it easy.
No, but it sounds obvious in hindsight. But when you're going through that process, I can appreciate that. Obviously, you're leading the way, or you're taking the charge, and not everybody fully grasps it. It reminds me of a commercial at accounting, because of your accounting background. I don't know if you've ever seen the commercial where it's like a recording company. Okay. And there's an accountant there say, we should digitize the music, and sell the music. And they're having this discussion, and then the record executives are like, well, how's that gonna sell CDs?
Yeah, that's right. It's like, how do I make money off of this framework
without
of what it is
understanding
today?
That the business is not the CD, it's what's on the CD. Yeah. So it just, because of your accounting background, it made me think of that commercial. I'm like, that's exactly what you were doing.
And that's so much of like, and even now we have to like kind of even disrupt ourselves and break our own rules, where it's like, well, yeah, like why would we mail all this stuff out? Right. Okay, so let's get rid of that. And then it's like, well, why do we have to? Well, if we partner with, say, a property manager, a landlord, right? And we partner with most of the largest property management companies in Canada are partnered with Apollo to provide tenants insurance to their customers or to their residents, as well as to have, we have other software to help track it and make sure that people have it. And so I'm like, well, we know your address. Yep. You signed a lease. Yep. So we know where you live. We know your address. We know who you are. Why would I go and ask you 30 questions about the building? Right. I know everything about that building.
That's right.
And that's just, it sounds like a simple concept, but if you go even to a lot of the online
it's
companies.
Simple, but it's not that simple because we're on the receiving end of that. So I can appreciate
right.
the friction aspect. So sorry, I don't want to cut
exactly.
you off there, but I want to highlight that what you just pointed out there is a big step, removing a big friction
just taking
point.
out all that friction where I still see even people that are going from paper to online, they're still asking, how old is your building? And it's like, well, that building got built in the same year, which doesn't change. So it's 1 year older than it was last year.
Exactly.
And so you're asking me again all these questions.
Right.
And it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever, you like I go to the bank and they'll put 4 pieces of paper in front of me and they ask me my name and my address on all 4 papers.
Yeah.
And by the way, they booked an appointment with me.
That's right.
And I'm a client of theirs.
And I'm there at that time, at that day,
and so they know, like they know all of the answers to these questions, but it's just like, okay, so how can we make it incrementally easier?
Yeah.
And so now through the APIs and sort of, again, going from paper to online was, I'd say, like the 1.0 innovation. And now it's like going from online to how do I go to as close to included? Yeah. No friction at all.
Right.
If we know everything about the building, we know about you.
Absolutely.
And so how do we, so we keep going on this journey to make it just incrementally easier. And I think that's been the rewarding part about the last, 6 years or so of the journey of building Apollo.
Listen, I knew a bit of the history, but that is enlightening to me. And it makes me appreciate what you're doing even more because I can appreciate when you're spearheading this direction. Not everybody's supporting you or fully grasping what you're doing.
Or getting in the way.
They're like, no. There's so it's and obviously it's so funny because I always like to see people that have been in business, but one of the things that I can appreciate is I was looking at you've got 4.7 rating for Google reviews. That's very high for a service business that deals with problems.
Yes, for sure. We're pretty proud of that one.
We can appreciate it from property management companies that you always have somebody that's not happy in the mix.
And it's tough it's a tough business to be in because you're right. Like you're naturally, like in our business, I'm dealing with, you had a claim. Right. You had a tough situation. Right. How do we do in the most challenging moment of your life? Right. And how do you do that? We operate across the country. We'll have roughly 200,000 individual policyholders this year. And it's
good for you.
Okay. Like now, how do you, all right, there's a forest fire. Yep. So, okay, what is now our response to, like last year was a record catastrophic loss year for Canada, where, you had hailstorms in Calgary, we had forest fires, we had flooding, urban flooding in Toronto, as well as, in other parts of the country. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well now what can we do to increase that experience? So like as an example, one thing we do is we'll either text or email everybody in a geography that might be affected. Okay. And we're like, hey, the fire might be near you, might not. So we're just going to let you know, by the way, if you have to make a claim, here's how you do it. Interesting. Not afterwards when they're like, hey, where's our insurance?
Trying to figure it out.
And they're trying to figure it out. Meanwhile,
interesting. So you're proactively.
Exactly. Right.
Interesting.
So again, the innovation is beyond just, okay, the simple thing of like, did you get a policy? Was it easy? And then it was, again, can we make it a little bit easier? Yeah. But now that there's that degree of scale, I'm thinking ahead to, okay, what does this look like at 1 million customers? And I'll have a building where, most of the people that live there are my customer. Right. So if there's a fire or a flood or something that's in this building, I'm like, well, I want to reach out to all the other residents and say, hey, we know that, your neighbor had a fire. Right. Are you guys did you have a claim as well? Or are you guys all right? And trying to be, again, just.
That's a proactive. I've never heard that. So that is fascinating.
And it's a pretty proud thing of like, and then it's, again, like, okay, what do we do in these next, and there will be new things that will keep coming down the line of like, how do we make that tenant experience just a little better? Right. And then of course, like to your point about the Google reviews, makes us look good, but it also makes, you as the
and I mean, listen, like Google reviews, I always say what I like about Google reviews is that it's third-party validation. Let's not kid ourselves. Yeah. Anybody can go on and put whatever review they want. But I can always appreciate, because we've done this for years, and I can appreciate what it takes to provide a level of service and being exposed to the people who aren't happy, but that's just part of doing business. Yeah.
At DORE, we go beyond basic property management. We pair tenants with homes that fit their lives and landlords with tenants they can trust. Inquire today and rent from people who care.
And you have, I think, as of just before hopping on, I think you're at 2,593 reviews with a 4.7 rating, which is, as a business owner, is very impressive.
Appreciate
so
that.
good for you guys. I mean, this, for the short years that you've been involved, obviously that's a great ramp up, and people, providing testimony on your behalf.
Yeah. And it's, it's great to see like the positive validation, but the other funny thing about it is like, we'll go through it, and I always go immediately to the 1 stars, right?
Of course.
Because I want to know. You're like, and if you looked at our company, like call it 3 years ago, it was like, everything was about wait times in contacting us.
Wait,
okay. So you call in and you're like, you want to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
It was like, so then, okay. But it's fun to actually go and then solve that problem.
Right.
Where now if you look, you wouldn't see anybody complaining because now it's like we answer a certain percentage of our calls in under 60 seconds. It's like 90% plus of our calls.
Wow.
Under 60 seconds.
Yeah.
We've been using artificial intelligence in our chat bot, in our training, so it's like, okay, we've really gotten now so good at that.
Yes.
But it was guided by.
But they're feeding me
the next step. Solve this problem next.
That's right.
And I think a lot of people can say, well, they're people are being negative, but I love that as much as I love somebody that's like, great, it was easy, super helpful. That's always good to see.
Yeah.
But I also like someone that's like, I tried to call and it took 10 minutes, because trust me, when I'm on hold with, I don't want to call out the Canadian telecoms or the airlines.
But you will. No,
let's be honest. When I've got a call,
you get on a chat, you're like, you're 173
like,
people in front of you. Like, oh, great.
And it's like, or or the CRA or something. It's like, okay, you're on a 27-hour hold.
Yeah.
Like,
really?
Can we just do a little better?
Yeah.
And so just as an entrepreneur trying to build my business, I'm like, okay, how can I make not just the buying experience great, but once you are a customer, how can we really treat you fairly and do a great job? And it's something that, it's always aspirational, and we're never going to be perfect.
Right.
Right?
Nobody is.
Nobody is. Yeah. But how do you do it kind of at a degree of scale? But how do we kind of say, well, I want to deal with a company that is of the standards under which I'm building for my customer. Because there's a lot of times now, you just go in and you try and do business with whatever it might be in the market. And it's like, I just want to talk to somebody and have them solve this for me.
Right.
And when that becomes so challenging.
And not just that, but efficiently. Like quickly.
And I think there's some great examples. Like,
do you use artificial intelligence for phone calls or just for chatbots?
So we do it on phone calls now. So we track things like customer sentiment. Yep. Because the AI will track their tone.
Yeah. Like,
so was it a good call or a bad call? Right. So that could be, do we de-escalate? We're playing around, and the woman that runs my sort of contact center, brilliant. Her name's Seaham, and she was just showing us our executive committee this week. She was calling, she built an AI bot for claims, and we haven't rolled it out yet, but she's talking to this like AI.
That works. She works just for you.
So this one works at our company, and she is in charge of all of our sort of customer experience. And so she's chief customer experience officer. So her whole mandate is, how do we address
and really
all
with
of
technology?
With technology, or often it's the marriage of human support and technology.
Right.
At what point is there value add?
Yeah.
If you want to do a super simple transaction, so for example, change your address.
Yeah.
You come to the bot, hey, I want to change my address, and it'll just do it for you.
Okay.
So you're like, I didn't need to speak with somebody.
No.
I didn't really need help. But if you're like, hey, I've got a more complex problem.
Right.
I want to call in, or how do we sort of triage things?
Yeah.
And I was blown away at how good, like this AI so she named it Mia.
Yep.
So you're talking to, and it's like the inflection in the voice.
Isn't that something?
And like you're hearing this computer say, hey, let me just check on that, like with that tone.
I love that.
And you hear about AI and all that stuff, and it's kind of nebulous, and it's
of course. No, but I mean, it serves a purpose.
But when you get these very practical examples that are like in our business, and it's like, whoa, like this is kind of neat, and it's like, okay, well, we might have to go back and then you think about, okay, if we built this great business, and then we go back and now we have to like disrupt ourselves and almost go back and rebuild pieces of it with now what's
your own competitor,
with our own, we have to compete with ourselves to drive things forward,
and it makes it so much more efficient. So the people that you have, obviously, then you use them for stuff that a computer can't do or AI can't do, and you use their wit and their mindset to do
Or the more complex thing where it's like, okay, yeah, like
trying to
you
figure
did
out how
have
to
a
piece
really
these
bad
things together.
situation, you need to speak with somebody, then that person's available,
Right.
because they're not sitting there changing addresses for thousands and thousands of people.
Sure.
They let the computer do the work
Of
on,
course,
on that
of
thing.
course.
But when you're like, oh, I can actually still access. And that's where I don't ever want to have a company that's entirely, without people. I want our people to be doing high value tasks, and particularly in service roles, and particularly for insurance where, yeah, your house just burned down, or you're standing outside the front lawn and you call us. You don't want to be on hold. You don't want to be put through you want to speak with somebody.
Exactly.
What do I do?
Especially in that,
and so in that moment, I want to be present and I want to do a great job. And
the right people.
The way to do that is, you take out all the low value things and you find ways to use technology to marry those experiences and get them off of the desk of that person who can be there. And so it's like,
you have no clue how much I appreciate all of what you're doing. Yeah.
And it's hard because 5 years ago, that wasn't the conversation.
No,
it was, how do I take this piece of paper and just put it online at all?
Exactly.
Right? And then now it's like, okay, like this is going to go quickly here. And even though a lot of the rest of the industry is still, the insurance industry that is still behind, but I think a lot about your industry and about, the same thing that happened with Airbnb or banking or insurance in my case, now I'm seeing property management go through, all right, we're taking leasing processes and putting them online. And we're trying to integrate other services. And, you must be sort of looking at different pieces of technology as well.
100%.
Saying, like,
100%. So that's why what you're talking about is of extreme high interest to myself. Because we've set up like a CRM that goes through that whole leasing process. Obviously there's human engagement. We have no choice. The computer doesn't show the property.
Of course,
right? Somebody has to physically go, but a lot of the processes are just going in as to what would need to happen without a human necessarily having to go through it. So the online process is they're going on, they're putting in all their information. So before somebody actually hits the file, we, like, all the onboarding is already done. So it comes into our CRM so we can see where it is. And we've got, and I mean, we could torque it to another level. So perhaps we're going to have a conversation afterwards on other things. But because I can appreciate that once you do that. So it's interesting because a lot of times when you do that, and I've been in seminars hearing about this where, and I mean, the team that works for us, sometimes it can be seen, it sounds great at first, but then people worry about losing their jobs. And for me, I'm always like, this is not about cutting anybody. This is about making us more efficient. So the stuff that you can't do, you get a computer to do. So we can use your knowledge, what you're doing to help with the task like you were doing. So that's why I'm hearing like that makes so much sense to me. Oh yeah.
And then you have people, like you said, somebody then shows that place, but now that experience is so elevated.
That's right.
Because that human has had the time and they're able to then be because the computer in the background is, like you said, the CRM is doing a bunch of the other work. So that you don't have some human that's just like at their desk all day having this, again, they're creating an amazing experience. And in the meantime, the computer has like sort of the background stuff. And that's where it's, reorienting our thinking towards not just digitizing. Because sometimes you digitize and it's like,
it's
that
not
sucks.
Good. No, there's no, you're with the experience in mind. So that's why I can appreciate when you say the low value tasks, but then use the right people to deal with stuff where you need a human with emotions to deal with the issue and make a judgment call, right? That's why I think that's a very, very important point that you're bringing to the equation, because it's not all digital without humans, right?
That's right.
It's just a tool to help you.
It's the marriage of the two. And I think that's, finding that is going to be different in every industry and how you interact with it. And we'll test something and then, and then we got to roll it back because it doesn't kind of get received well but I think that you used the word emotion. That's really I think there's a huge piece of value there. And hey, maybe at some point in, 5 years from today, it might be that, whether it's AI or computerization can take on some different roles.
Right.
But now you're still going to want to make sure that your people are instilling the values you have as a company, how you want to be interacting with these customers into the technology so that it's still acting in line with, all right, well, then you ask the questions of like, what kind of tone? Or is that, that bot or that phone call that might be still a computer? Well, are they super friendly?
Right.
What's our philosophy on the way that we approach things?
Right.
How do we treat our people? And I think the companies that find that balance for their own industry are going to be way ahead of their competitors, because some are going to say, we're going all digital.
Yeah.
And then their customers, whether it's residents or otherwise, are going to be like, this sucks.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I know I'm interacting with a machine, which is no good.
Yeah. Which is no good. So then if that machine's being trained by humans that are instilling the workflows, the empathy, the additional like ways to offboard into a different experience, I think then they're going to really win. So it's not just about, oh, well, we use AI or we have digitization, like is that in fact adding value to the process?
And just the human experience as well, right?
That's right.
Just to go through that. That's fascinating. I didn't know we were going there, but that is amazing. I mean, I'm happy that...
I didn't know I was going there either.
No, that's good.
Like 7 years ago, I was
obviously, I'm listening to this. I'm genuinely, this is a very high interest to me. So...
well, and there must be so many, I've seen this in property management, but you must have a tough time evaluating a lot of the systems that are out there, because there's so many CRMs and, you went custom. Interesting. Yeah. That must have been a journey for you.
It still is. But no, it's custom in a sense that we could never find. There's not an out of the box system that actually, allows you to do all the processes that you want. So it's customized.
Yeah.
There's several other levels to this that we can bring to the table. So that's why I find it highly interesting what you're bringing to the table. Yeah. So, and it's interesting because it leads me into, like, I want you to be able to also, maybe highlight to everybody listening, like what problems are you solving for landlords and tenants with your service? I mean, you've alluded to it right now, I'll share what, like, for us, how doing business with you and your company have changed. And we were just discussing this was where the challenge that we were having initially is if we would rent the property, we clearly would want to make sure that the tenant has tenant insurance before, they pay their first last month's rent, that they, before handing over the keys, we want to make sure they have insurance. And a lot of times it became a task in of its own. And we had to assign somebody to just make sure that, oh my gosh, okay. Because a lot of times people, switch the utility. I sent you the deposit, you need the key. No, you need tenant insurance. Well, how do I get that? Because sometimes you have people who don't know, have never done this before, whichever. And when you came on the scene and our team highlighted that, some of it. So what we ended up doing is that in the preparing of the move-in, we embedded the request for insurance as part of the program. So that way it goes through, all the check marks go through. But we're not asking for it. It's part of our process. So when we were saying we automated certain things through our CRM that's custom, we've embedded the insurance requirement that links directly to your system so that they don't have to go and Google another address or talk to their supplier or whichever. We've embedded it in our system. So your link is embedded in our process, and then they go in and we get confirmation that they have insurance. We're happy. And I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that even if they cancel, we get notified.
That's right.
Right. Which is a big plus, because that we wouldn't have known in the past.
Yeah.
So if a tenant would give us an insurance certificate to move in, they could cancel it the next day. We would be none the wiser.
There's no visibility.
We have no clue. Yeah. Whereas with you, when they go in, we at least know that if they, for whatever reason, didn't pay whichever, they canceled, then we're alerted and we can try to remedy that situation. So for us, that was a big plus. But I'm sure there's other things other problems you're solving for landlords and tenants. So,
looking for stable income-producing assets? At DORE, we help clients buy and sell commercial properties that deliver long-term value. From multifamily buildings to turnkey retail and office investments, let's talk about your next smart move. Visit us at doremultiresidential.com.
Well, that's exactly, we kind of look at the two stakeholder groups and look at your relationship and say, well, how can we be helpful to both? Right? And so to the tenant, like you said, it's like, I don't know where to get insurance.
Yep.
And they're like, okay, I got to move. I got to get, furniture. I got to get a moving company. I got to find a place to live. I got to find a place that's in a reasonable budget for me. So they're going through all this stuff in their life.
Right.
The last thing they're thinking about is, okay, I need insurance. They're like, I got to book the elevator. I got to pick a move-in date. It's like a lot of stuff going on. I got to get together with, first month's rent. And it's like, and so to do all that, we're like, okay, well, how can we just take that one piece and make it a little bit easier? So the tenant, they get a referral to a trusted vendor for insurance.
Yep.
Right. So for them, they're like, oh, okay, this is a trustworthy place because my property manager says this is a good, credible company.
Yep.
So that already is a big check mark for the tenant of like just that referral of like, yeah, these guys are legitimate. It's a good company. And like you said, like you can Google it and like there's, you know, all these different answers out there and rabbit holes.
Where do you go?
Where do you go? So like that's a big benefit. And then for them, well, they don't have to go and answer all, like again, a lot of people out there, they're saying, here's the paperwork. And they'll still send you PDFs to fill out.
Yeah, I know.
Or even the
like,
online
what do you mean, there's
ones.
no electronic signature? What do you want me to do? Scan it, print it, and then scan it again?
And like, who's a printer?
Who does this now?
You know, and this is the thing about the lift. Like,
I know.
But that's still how.
But it's not like I laugh
millions of
because
dollars.
that's not very far from here.
know.
Like a few years ago, we're like, what? I have to sign this? What?
Yeah, sign it, you want to take a picture and you sort of. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so that's just a great experience for the tenant. I mean, we've had thousands and thousands of people buy their insurance in less than a minute because it's like so easy for them. Like you said, they click the link. Oh, here's your checklist of the things you have to do. Great. Here's the link. Bam, bam, click, check out. We've already sent it to you. So you're happy. And it's one less thing for your leasing agent who on the other side of it, they're busy. So they got to fill they got to do all the showings. They got to check the lease. They're doing, whether it's credit checks or background, all of the things in the leasing process. They're busy. And the last thing they want to do is chase around like, and even if they said to you right before the keys were handed off, hey, you can just go on your phone. Bam, bam. Okay, it's done. And that, just reduces so much friction for both sides. But then you having the visibility across your portfolio, bad things happen.
Yeah, I know.
And like every day I'm getting a notification. It's like, yeah, you know what? Like somebody, whether it's a candle and, they knock it over, it hits the curtains and there's a fire. We have cooking fires all the time. And it's just, there's bad luck. So for property management companies to use Apollo as a partnership, well, now we're helping making sure that when bad things happen and it's, tenant causes a fire, they cause a flood, whatever, we're going to make sure that we're going to, help rectify that for the landlord and pay for that damage. So that whether it's them or other people or common areas, we're going to go back and we're going to make sure that tenant, we can claim against them because they have insurance.
Exactly.
And the tracking is
like for landlords, it's priceless to have to not just remove the friction off the steps, but to have some type of certainty that this is actually happening.
That you're going to get that
because a lot of times, like our insurance provider will also request if embedded in our system, we have a requirement for tenants to have insurance. And before it was done manually. So before we were doing it with you, it was a
it's a whole full-time gig.
It like move-ins, you get all these movements happen at the same time, and some people wait until the last minute. And it became horrendous. And then all of a sudden, I can't get my keys. Well, we're waiting on this
last thing and
this little piece of paper that we would print,
but
put
that's
in our
worth,
checklist,
it's worth
and we would put in our
we
literally print it and put it in a manual file, which we don't do anymore. Right.
But that's the journey that all of our partners are going on. Of like you're going through a digitization journey and process changes, and so we're trying to mirror that journey for how we're evolving as a company too, and say, well, okay, what else can we do to give you visibility? How can we build other software that allows, like we just, and I don't know if we've rolled it out with you yet, but we just launched something where even if you don't buy from us, you buy from any company in the country, you can upload your insurance and we'll verify that policy meets the lease requirements, even though it's not, it's not an Apollo policy. Well, it's still a big pain point for landlords. Because they say, well, it's great that we partnered with you, but what about if they have insurance already? And it's, well, then what do we do there? Well, then it's still a big amount of work. So we said, okay, well, how do I solve that? And so we went, and then again, you kind of go down the rabbit hole and you sort of pull on pieces of string and tease your way out of the problem. And so we've been able to build software that allows for this upload. And then basically it'll same thing. It'll send it to you and it just alleviates a little more work and a little more friction. And that has been a big pain point for landlords, because you say, well, it's great that you get Apollo, but they had a policy from their alumni or whatever their thing is. Well, and so it's just, again, working together and communicating with our partners to learn, like, all right, what's the journey you're going on?
That's right.
How can we be a part of it?
And I mean, obviously, and a big advantage, I think that the big advantage you're bringing to landlords, I'm just listening to you and I'm like, so essentially we're not deviating from our initial process. You're actually facilitating, even though we're not checking all the boxes. So that's awesome.
Well, and that's a big part of it, is trying to learn from your process.
Right.
It's great. And I see companies do this all the time. They say, no, change all your processes to adopt us.
Right.
get real.
Right.
You're like, no, like it's not.
Yeah.
It's just not. So how do we kind of try to find an easy way to come into your process?
Interesting.
And that's a big focus of ours, because I see that sort of vendors say, well, no, change everything that you're doing.
Right. Yeah, I know.
I'll just put that on my old to-do list. Right?
Yeah. No, I get it.
For the privilege of
serving
some
you.
tool.
I know.
Work, right?
I know. No, but the adaptability, I mean, obviously is having the understanding that your process can be embedded. I mean, that's what we did. We just embedded the process. So for us, it just facilitated what we were already doing.
Kick through, and that's right. It just sort of seamlessly flows into your process. And now, I mean, we work with most of the largest landlords in the country, and we're kind of really proud of that.
Right.
That they've chosen us to be, the preferred vendor, and be able to kind of go to market with these different styles of integration that just, again, make it easier for you and then make it easier for the tenant.
No, and in that vein also, I mean, I think we're all in agreement that the macro trend seems to favor more renters down the road. Is that what you're seeing now? Because I see, I'm looking at what you're doing, and I'm like, there seems to be a heavy push to facilitate that process. And I'm assuming that macro trend is something that is that you're seeing as well.
Well, and this is, I mean, people say, Jeff, can you build a big enough business selling renters insurance? Because, a lot of people say, well, why don't you go into like some of the larger policies, for instance, like the ski resort type stuff, or like more complex. Why don't you do that? A lot of people do the buildings, but then they don't do anything with the renters, because it's hard to do these smaller transactions without technology.
Right.
But I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, 13 million Canadians rent. In both today. Both election platforms were all about multifamily housing. We're going to build housing. They're not going to go build row houses. No, it's going to be high rise, purpose-built planned communities. And you've seen some great recent examples, like the Well in Toronto is a great example. 4 or 5 residential towers, office tower, mall, banking, restaurants, bar, fitness, all in one big city block. And you're seeing some of these like plans that are getting approved by city councils, super high density. Purpose-built rental, and then it's built as a community.
Right.
And the community part is really neat, where it's like, well, you can have, basically a community center and fitness, very high valued amenities, but then you also have some restaurants, or it's adjacent to a mall, transit.
All within, you just walk.
It's all, you just walk.
There's no cars.
That's right. And so it changes the concept of like, well, you have housing here in the suburbs, and then you go to like the city where you have, business or commercial. The marriage of the two is what I'm seeing. And so I look at my business and I'm like, I think people are going to rent. They're going to rent for longer. Housing affordability is not going to change anytime soon. We're still going to have, an era of low interest rates, which is going to, inflate housing prices. So there's going to be an affordability. Like, even if you can get a mortgage at a low rate, buying in a place for $1 million is still going to be out of reach, for a lot of people. And so,
unfortunately,
but rental housing, then it's like, okay, well, how do we, and I think the flexibility of renting is great, because people, as they change their economic circumstances, or maybe they want to change geography, you see how many people are moving to Calgary or moving to Toronto, or it's new immigration into Canada, all these different factors. Well, you might land somewhere and then you want to move. And if you're renting, well, then you have that flexibility, and maybe you need, as you have a family, you can change your circumstances. And so, it's tough that homeownership was going to be, out of the reach for most people. But the reality is, well, how do we create a great renting experience? And that doesn't mean just technology, but everything that you're doing to serve your communities. And we're seeing, more and more, okay, well, insurance is one small piece of it for me. But I think we could, we're going to easily have 1 million customers, insurance customers at Apollo. And I think that the macro trends really are going to track, at least for whatever platform comes around from a government, housing perspective. Again, it's not going to be suburban, white picket fence.
They're not going to want that.
It's all density, and it's all transit oriented density. And it's, and a lot of it, the narrative is purpose-built rentals, which is the business that,
that we're in. We're in development. We're developing some of these buildings. I've been involved in rental properties for 25 years. I'm also a licensed commercial realtor. So I help people buy and sell, multi-residential assets as well as investment properties. So we're definitely, and there's definitely an understanding, whether we agree with it or not, that's where it's going. So I think that that's just the nature of where the economy is at this point, and where we're at in the cycle. So
investing in Ottawa real estate, DORE Property Management has 20 plus years of proven results. Call 613-227-0000 or visit dorerentals.com.
And so when we think about it, and I think, you're seeing some of the stats around condo sales and other things, but half of all condos are owned by investors.
No, and they're rentals. Not exactly.
And they're rentals. So even though it's not necessarily purpose built, things are still trending towards that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think about, and people have just sort of resigned to the fact. But even if you're on a 30-year or 40-year mortgage, you're basically just renting from the bank for 40 years.
In many cases.
Like, and when you look at
and you get all the problems from owning.
Yeah, so you get all the problems from owning, but you don't have the benefits.
And you can't just move because you got to sell them.
And because you got to get out of it. And so and not to one way or the other, but it's just, so I think, okay, how we're positioned. And that's why I love the multifamily industry. And we've invested so much building Apollo, as an adjacency to your business and to these large landlords. And you know what? Yeah, there's bad actors in every story, but for the most part, there are just great people in this industry.
No doubt.
And that's what,
that's been my experience. You hear the bad apples, a little one here and there.
And they make the news, unfortunately, here and there.
And make either landlords or tenants. But a lot of times, people, tenants. And I'm like, well, yes, there's a risk. But my experience is that, it's a needle in a haystack. Yes, you'll have problems and people perhaps may not, treat the property the way that you would like to treat it. But, they pay their rent, are they respectful? Are they using it in a way that is normal? Then that's what it is.
And most people just want a place to live, and they want fairness, and and they want to be part of a community. And I think being able to create that and be, for us, a small part of that, but to work with such great people that are operating these assets, dealing with tenants, working day in and day out. Like I was just visiting a community here in Ottawa, and like they're talking about the events they do, and they've got kids programs, and they have camps, and they have cool facilities, and they have I'm like, this is so cool. Like I would want to grow up here, and you can see kids riding their bikes around the streets, and like this is a really neat thing. And they're just, you can tell that they really care, right? And by and large, that's the experience I've seen just working in this industry, and it's just been great. And even watching some of your episodes and the different people that you've brought on, everyone's like, hey, how do we make this a bit better?
No,
and
absolutely.
That's a cool mission for everyone to kind of get on board with.
And everybody's trying, and I think everybody is recognizing the trends and what's happening. And obviously, we're entrepreneurs, so we're trying to make that trend. We're not trying to necessarily change the trend. We're on it, saying this is where it is. How can we service it in a way where, and obviously you're paying it. You've removed a lot of pain points, I believe, in that process. So kudos to you guys.
Well, just in the small way that we can.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah. And just anybody listening to this, the importance of insurance. I don't think that we need to highlight it for landlords. I think landlords, understand. And even if they have a loan or whatever, obviously they own the asset, they have to have insurance. But I think where there's a lack of understanding per se on the importance of insurance lies with the tenant, where they're like, hey, why do I need insurance?
Yeah, what do I need it for? And that's education is really important. And we've been trying to think about being a little more maybe fun and clever in the marketing aspect of the education, where like there's kind of two main reasons I see to have a tenants insurance policy. Yeah, okay, you could do something bad in your landlord, right? But really it's one, you got more stuff than you think, right? Because people look around their apartment, they're like, wait, I don't know much. But it's like, well, by the time you had to go out, buy a new couch, buy a new bed, this, you think just replacing your t-shirts and your clothes, like it adds up. Yeah. And, to a lot of folks, it's like, well, times are tough, whether it's economic times or otherwise, it's like, but to go out and try and start from zero is just impossible. Yeah. And you know what? People are living paycheck to paycheck. That's a reality. But the reality of trying to put up $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to start again, is just like, that's, the difference between, really right on the edge there. And so we think about that. It doesn't have, I don't own watches and fancy things. No, but it's like just to go buy a new couch. Yeah. And insurance pays, or at least our insurance pays a replacement cost. Okay. So we'll buy you a new couch. Yeah. We're not going to try to find a couch that's, 5 years old. No, we're going to buy you a new couch. Right. And so you have to insure it to the value of going out today. And with inflation and, this tariff stuff, and you want to go buy a new couch, well, it's expensive. Yeah. And even if so all that stuff, it's such a good, you own more stuff than you think is a message we're really trying to get out to tenants. And the other one that's so valuable about tenants insurance is we'll pay to put you up in a hotel. Okay. So even if
something happens,
your neighbor has a fire, the pipe bursts in the ceiling, whatever it might be, you know, the reality is, well, you got to move out.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a night, maybe it's a week. Trying to go, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
And so, okay, something bad happens.
And that's expensive.
Right. So, you know, you got to go get into a hotel and like, so we'll put up the money to pay for that.
Okay.
And so those, I mean, yeah, okay, you got more stuff than you think. That's so important. But really, like, you're standing on the front lawn and there's a fire in your neighbor's unit or whatever. Yeah. Where are you going to go?
Yeah. And it may not have anything to do with you,
Nothing
but you're affected by it.
But you got to move out because of smoke or water, or you got a foot of water in your living room. Well, you got to go somewhere, and you know, and insurance is going to put up the money for you to go whatever until that place is fixed. Yeah. And so that's why it's just so important, because, you know, in that moment, like, people don't have an extra couple $1,000s to go live in a hotel for a week. So for, you know, what, $20 a month, we're going to pay for that hotel for you whenever that problem ever happens in your life. And it's going to happen, because it does.
No, it happens. No, it's unfortunate, but it does. It does. And if the issue is instigated, or, you know, whether, you know, as a tenant, you know, falls asleep and, you know, they leave the stove on, whichever. Yeah. I'm assuming, and I don't know the answer to this, but I'm assuming that they have some form of protection, because obviously if they're held liable for it, there may be some repercussions for them if they're not insured. Well, and it could be, you know, something that
accidents happen.
It's an accident,
right? And even like,
and then you create all of these problems, and next thing you know, if you're not insured,
and you're in trouble. And that's right. I mean, so as part of the policy, you know, you usually get $1 million of that liability side. It's harder to convince people that that's important. It's important to landlords, because it's like, that's where you're going to have that help from. Right. But for the tenant, they're like, oh, I'm responsible. Yeah. And I got friends that are lawyers and really smart kids, and they'll text me. They're like, like, almost burned my house down.
Yeah.
You know, because of how it's just how quick it is, where, it's a cooking thing, or you put the wrong thing in the microwave, or, you know, you put something, you pot on the stove, you go back down to watch TV, and it's a really good episode. You come back and like the pot's almost melted.
Yeah. I've seen that.
And like, that's the difference, you know, that's so close to being a huge fire. And, you know, and these are people that, of course, they would never think, oh, I'm going to make a mistake like that. Yeah. But it happens kind of happen to the best of us in that sense, where it's just that quick. Or, you know, I saw there was one the other day, and it was just a tea towel on the stove, right? And they left the burner on. Okay. And of course, you know, thing catches on fire. And so, but just stuff like that, you know, and so that liability component, where, you know what, like, if you cause all that damage, you're liable. Right. You were negligent. That's your fault.
Right. If you're not insured,
and if you don't have insurance, then that can be a really bad spot for folks.
That's right.
Because, you know,
I think just that in of itself, I mean, if you don't want
so much value,
if you don't want to, you know, insure your t-shirts, that's fine. But I mean, if something like that happens, I think the repercussions are significant. So,
and that's where I think it's, you know, we want to offer a really good product that responds, that's affordable, you know, at the best price in the country. And like, we're very close to having a best price guarantee.
Okay.
Where I can basically guarantee, because of the AI we're using and the different algorithms, I can basically guarantee
the efficiency aspect of,
that we're going to have the best price in the country. And then that way it's like, you know what, get the insurance.
Right.
You know,
no.
And of all the things we spend money on, it's not the exciting thing. No. You know, hey, I didn't think I was going to grow up and be the insurance guy. You know, well,
but here you are.
So here we are, and but the reality is, I know it's not the new iPhone, or it's not as exciting, or or fun, but
it can insure your iPhone.
But there you go. But stuff happens, and so take care. You know, take care of that. And so because bad things do happen, it's unfortunate, but you know, in that moment, you want to have that coverage.
No, that's great. Hey, Jeff, you've been really generous with your time. Thank you for stopping by. If anybody listening to this wants to get more information about what you do, is that a website? What's the best way to?
ApolloCover.com.
ApolloCover.com. And Mike will put that in the video. Very so anybody looking at it can go in.
And folks can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn or drop me an email. So I'll make sure that the contact info is.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, and I mean, this is DORE Property Management. We've been using this service for, I think we were calculated about 4 years. It really helped us. So, I mean, obviously, we highly recommend you, and we're happy to
appreciate that,
to be able to highlight that for you.
It's been a great partnership and a great conversation today.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the DORE Podcast. If you're an entrepreneur or investor focused on real estate in Ottawa, we want to hear from you. Apply to be a guest and check out our video content anytime on YouTube.